Okay, it looks like we are good to go ahead and get started. So I am going to switch a screen now just to introduce myself. My name's Hannah Gunderson, and I'm going to be your presenter tonight. I also have Heather McLeod with me. She's going to be monitoring the questions chat. I just did not do her fairly, and I did not put her picture on the slide. But no, she is here. She'll be monitoring that chat for all of your questions. We're really excited to host this webinar tonight. If you're on the East Coast, thank you for joining us so late. I've been really excited about this webinar, and the only thing I think I'm more excited about than this webinar is probably to watch Bridgerton after. So if you don't mind, if you see the question chat on your screen, if you've seen the show, just put in what your favorite season is, 1, 2, or 3. I'll accept Queen Charlotte also on there. That's not really a season, but it's like in the mix. Or if you haven't seen the show, then you can just put in whatever show's your favorite. We just want to make sure that question chat's going and working before we go ahead and actually start talking about all of the important stuff I need to go over. Okay, I see some answers coming through. Somebody said best show is Grey's Anatomy. I'll also agree with that, and that's another Shonda show, so that almost counts. And then Hannah, which this is perfect. My name's also Hannah, said season 1, and that's my favorite season. So the question chat's definitely working. I agree with all the answers that are starting to come through. And while y'all put those in there, I'm going to go ahead and move over to just a little bit more about OmegaFi. So this is why we exist. I'm actually going to pass it over to Heather so you can hear her voice real quick, and then she's going to give you these details before we get into the agenda.
Thanks, Hannah. I love the feedback coming in about best shows and favorite seasons. So again, thank you all for joining us this evening or afternoon, depending on where you are. So a little bit about OmegaFi. OmegaFi is actually the company that hosts OmegaRecruit and several other products. And we have actually been around for more than 30 years, providing technology solutions to help customers with things like managing finances, streamlining operations, recruiting new members, of course, as we're talking about today, as well as communicating with members. We work with 57 different headquarters, as well as local chapters and house corporations, IFC and Panhellenic councils, as well as alumni associations across more than 650 campuses. And we remain the industry leader when it comes to technology in the fraternity and sorority community. And we are based out of Columbus, Georgia, where we securely process more than $1.1 million per day for our clients, and we've securely processed more than $4 billion since we got started back in 1992. We are deeply committed to serving and promoting and advancing the fraternity and sorority experience. And we aim to make raving fans, which is one of our company values. We aim to do that with every individual or group that we work with by reaching and innovating and acting with agility. And we challenge ourselves to dream big every day and to help others achieve their own dreams. So to say that we're passionate about what we do is an understatement. And it's this passion that has encouraged our clients to trust us to do the heavy lifting so that you all can focus on your mission and having fun.
Perfect. Thank you, Heather. Now, moving on to our agenda, we're going to start with tips for a successful recruitment. I think everybody loves tips and definitely wants to have a successful recruitment. And then we're going to go into some information about logins and account setup. After that, we'll go to the main menu and features. So that's where we're really going to get into OmegaRecruit. And then after that, we'll do voting and reporting. So after you see how to set everything up in OmegaRecruit, all the features, I'll show you what voting looks like on those ballots. And then we'll have Q&A at the end, so you can put your questions in live. So for our main tips, we have 3, and they seem a little straightforward, but they are definitely important to keep in mind. Number 1 is login. So ensure all your members are logging in at least 1 week before recruitment. I recommend even sooner if they can, the sooner the better. That way you can mitigate any problems if somebody does have to get their login fixed or has to switch their email. You're not doing it the day before recruitment and trying to make sure everyone gets in while everything else is already going a little Everything's super busy, maybe a little crazy. The next thing is practice. So we have practice files in OmegaRecruit. Those are what we're going to be using today. I'll put some of those in there. And then you guys can also download those, excuse me, and use them to practice with your members. So if you want to do like a mock recruitment, maybe during your polish week, you can download those and use them, or you can make your own practice list, but we do have those available for you guys. And the last thing is train. So review the webinars that we have. It's in the in-app help section. I'll show you where that is. Make sure you're just like comfortable and confident with the tools available to you. Definitely learn the basics and get that down so you can train everyone else in your chapter. And then also just know the resources you have. So if anything comes up that maybe stumps you, you have really quick and easy ways to access answers. So in our help center, or knowing what email you can reach out to if you don't see that answer in the help center. So those are our main tips. Moving on to what these activation emails are going to look like. This is going to be one that you'll get as an administrator for your chapter. So this is going to be you setting up your chapters in OmegaRecruit. So you're going to get this email, read through it, make sure you log in, make sure you guys have paid so you can log into your account and activate it. So you'll be able to go through that. And then what your members are going to receive is this user login email. So if they've used OmegaRecruit, before, or if this is their first time, everybody's going to be getting this email, and they'll be able to click that create your account button. If your members have used OmegaRecruit before, they can just use the same username and password. If not, then they'll be able to click this button and create a new account. So if you've been in there before, it should be all the same information. If not, they'll be able to create their account using this email. And I can show you how to add those numbers. So let me switch my screen real quick. We're going to go into OmegaRecruit just to start looking at how we can add those members so they get those emails that I was talking about. Okay, so when you get into OmegaRecruit, I've already gone to the user page just because it's going to make me put in recruitment dates if I go on any other page. You will land on the home page. So if you haven't put in recruitment dates, it'll ask you to put those in, and I'll show you how to do that right after this. But if you want to add users, you can go to this user panel right here. The user list is going to show your existing ones. So anybody who's an admin should be in there, those carried over, but all of your other users are not in there. So if you're looking at this list and you don't see an admin on there that needs to be there, or you're looking at this list and you're like, okay, it's time to add my chapter, what you're going to do is go to add users. So you add users and you're going to go to this page. If it's just like one or two members, not that many, you can just put in their first name, last name, email, click add user. If it's your entire chapter, I recommend using the Excel spreadsheet option just to save you time from having to do it one by one. I know some of you guys have really big chapters, so that could take potentially a really long time. So definitely use this Excel file. You'll click upload email list, and then you'll go to the user list and you'll see everybody listed here. If they haven't logged in, there will be a box here that says send registration email. So you can click that box and it'll resend their registration so they can log in. Maybe they misplaced the email or deleted it by accident. They didn't know what it was going to be. You can do that there. You can also edit your users here. So you can see there's group number, star, admin. You can delete them or you can restrict them. The star feature will come into play later when we go over matching, but a lot of chapters will use this if maybe you have really strong recruiters. If you have those PNMs that you've identified that you definitely think during recruitment you want to like spend time with and really get to know more, you think, just based on your first interactions, they really like match what your chapter values. You could match them based on the star feature. So a lot of chapters will star their like best recruiters to go match them up with those women. You can use it for other reasons as well. It's just really a tool that you guys will be able to use to help match with PNMs. Admin obviously is going to give them admin status. If you have this, you're going to have all of these tabs over here. Your other members are going to have less tabs. They're just going to really have their ballot. They'll be able to set up their account, but they're not going to be able to view votes that have been submitted on PNMs or the PNM list, all of that stuff. So admin will just be for your officers that need that full access. Delete is going to be something, obviously, to delete it, but something we see people run into login problems is women will go to log into their account and it says they don't have access or they don't have an account. And it's because they're logging in with an email that's different than the one that you added them with. So like you can see here, mine says H. Gunderson plus OR test. But if I was like, oh, that's supposed to be H. Gunderson plus test, You could delete it and then just re-add me as a user using the correct email, and then that way it'll send to me and they can get logged in. And then the restrict button, this will just restrict their ability to vote and view different things on OmegaRecruit. Sometimes people will upload their whole chapter, but maybe you have a member who is not in good enough standing to vote on PNMs, but maybe you still have them have an account, or maybe it's like a temporary thing where they're going to be gone for one day of recruitment. So you want to restrict them that day to make sure they can't vote on PNM. So since they weren't there, and then the next day they'll be back and you can unrestrict them, that'll be something you'll be able to use there. So that is the gist of the user section. There's also user reports that we'll go over later, but that is how you're going to add your chapter members. Now, starting with the steps of recruitment, I'm going to go to PNM list, and this is always going to be your base when you want to start going through the steps of recruitment. Always go back to the PNM list because we'll have a checklist there, or you'll get this pop-up box that tells you the next thing you need to do. So when you guys log into OmegaRecruit, you have your account set up, it's going to ask you to put in your recruitment dates. It'll say you will be redirected to the chapter edit screen when doing, or excuse me, when this dialog closes. I just got myself tongue-tied. So we'll click that, and it's going to take us to this chapter information screen. You can also get to the screen just by clicking chapter. So here we're going to go to edit chapter, and then we'll pick our recruitment start date. So for the sake of this webinar, I'll say maybe we're starting Saturday, and then it's going to go through the following Saturday. Actually, let's say we'll start it today just to make it easier. And then we'll click save. And now we have our chapters dates in. So those will be the first day of recruitment all the way through the end of recruitment. Now, if we go back to PNM list, we're going to get this thing that pops up, and it says, welcome to OmegaRecruit. This is going to have everything you need to make sure you don't miss a step and you have all the stuff you need to do to have a successful recruitment. Up here, those test files I was telling you about, so I'm just going to click them to download them. We'll be using these in just a second. And then you'll see here that step one is going to say set up recruitment rounds. So I'm going to just click the step one button, and it's going to take me to the page. And we're back under that chapter tab. So if I didn't click step one, I could also come over here, click chapter, and it's going to bring me to this page. So here we're going to see edit rounds. The way you want to do this is based on the number of rounds you have, not the number of parties. So if some of you guys have multiple parties for round one, maybe it goes over 2 days or it's just 1 day, you still only want to add one round for that because we'll be able to add parties a little bit later. So if we go here and we click add round, you'll see it says round 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll do it that way. And we can click save. You'll see here, oops, it was loading. You'll see here it says open voting. So if we leave it like this, that would be on the ballot, it will show us all the PNMs. If we switch it to party voting, so if your school, and I think most schools do have multiple parties for each round, you'll be able to put the number of parties here. So if we're going to maybe have like 3 parties, we could put it in like that. Round 2, maybe there's less parties, maybe there's only 2, and you can fill them in accordingly. So this is how you're going to be able to control separating those multiple parties you have without having to add, like 30 rounds. So you'll be able to do that. You'll also see that for this account, it'll flag the last round is preference round. Some of you guys, based on the organization you're with, your national organization, you may see other names for these rounds filled in automatically. Just know that's like how your headquarters has had us set it up, and it should match with what you're expecting to see. But for the most part, I think everybody's last round says preference round. You'll also be able to you should be able to uncheck this. Maybe not. Here we go. You should be able to edit the names of these rounds as well. It may just be loading slow, and I am on a test account, so sometimes those work a little bit differently. And I can see my thing is just loading. If y'all just give me 1 second. Okay, I think it's hopefully done loading. Well, you should be able to click this and edit it. I think because I'm on a test account, it's probably not letting me. After you have all of your rounds set up, you'll be able to go back to PNM list, and then it's going to bring you up these steps again. So after we've done that, we're going to upload PNMs, and we're going to click step 2. Again, it's going to take you to the page, but if you want to define this, you're just going to go to PNM, and then you can go to add PNM. We're going to use that file that I downloaded, but this page can look a little different based on what type of school you have. So if your school uses ICS, you'll be able to click a button that says import PNMs, and it'll import your PNMs from ICS. If you use something else like Campus Director, I believe is what it's called, you're going to have to manually upload them here. If you click here, this will have the detailed instructions. So it tells you how to format this file. It's super important that you follow all the instructions here and your file is formatted correctly. That way we know, or we can ensure your PNMs upload the way they need to. If you don't have the correct header titles like this, so if you vary from this even like a little bit, like if it said PNMs, but like an S at the end of it ID, it's not going to import correctly. And that can be a big pain if you're one of those schools that has, like hundreds or if not thousands of PNMs. It would be really tricky for you to have to go in and edit all of those things. So definitely go through here, make sure that all of the titles or headers for each of your columns falls under one of these. You're also going to be able to use these custom 1, custom 2, custom 3 columns that you can rename later. So if you see something you want to import that's not one of these here, use those custom fields so that way it at least pulls in your PNM list correctly and you're not going to have anything too crazy to have to manually add or clean up. Down here, it's also going to show you how to save the spreadsheet. So it says save spreadsheet as Excel 97-2003 workbook. So just make sure you choose that option. Again, this is just going to make sure that everything imports correctly and you're not going to get anything coming in wonky or your data not looking correct. It's going to make sure everything's right. So we're going to go back to the PNM upload. I'm going to choose File, and we're going to choose PNMs, Open, and then we're going to upload the PNMs. And again, it's just going to take a second to load. Here we go. You can see that we've successfully uploaded 99 PNMs. These are the errors. So if something doesn't import correctly, it will tell you like missing columns. If they don't have some of that information in there, it will let you know. And then once you're done with this, you can go back to PNM list, and we're going to be back on this page where it has all of our steps. Also, if we click close now, where the setup button is, we can see the list of our PNMs. So you can see they all have these cute little bear pictures. Yours will probably have real pictures of the women rushing, but we have bears for this account. And you can scroll through and all 99 PNMs will be in here. With this like little green banner showing that they're still active in the recruitment process. So if we want to go back to that setup list so we can see the next steps, we're going to click setup. I highlighted it. And now you're going to see the next step. It's jumping down to 4. Step 3 would be to add users, but we already did that. We already have users on this account, so you don't have to worry about that. If you don't have users, you'll just click the step 3, add users there, and you'll be good to go. Now for these next steps, once we do them, they're not going to disappear. They're just going to kind of cycle through because you're not going to have all of your parties for all of recruitment. You get them after you vote for each round. So you'll have your round 1 party list, and then you have to wait till after round 1 voting on both sides for the chapter and the PNMs to get your round 2 party lists. So these steps will stay here and you're just going to cycle through them. So we're going to start with step 4 and we're going to advance the round in party. And it's going to bring us back to that chapter tab. And then this is what's going to show us what round we're on. So right now we're before recruitment, which means we're not on a round at all. We're going to put in round 1. It'll say party 1, status open. Once it's open, that means people are able to vote. Your members will be able to vote on the PNMs. If we close it, which is something you're going to do, again, if you have round 1, for example, go over multiple days, after day 1's done, you're going to go in here, close round 1. That way no one can vote. And then when you come back the next day, you'll be able to reopen round 1, advance the party to whatever party you're on, and do it that way. So we'll click change status. And then we're going to return to the PNM list. And now you can see we can upload PNM parties. So if we go to step 5, again, it's going to let us know how we can upload the parties. So here are the detailed instructions and examples. This one is a lot simpler than the other spreadsheet I just showed you. You just put their ID number here, and then their party will be in the second column. Keep this super simple, just like this, and make sure, again, you follow these instructions so everything downloads correctly. If you're an ICS school, you'll be able to import the parties, but if you're using if your school uses something else, you'll manually upload those lists whenever you get them from your school. So you can see here's how to format it. This is how you're saving it. Again, it's that same Excel 97 2003 workbook. Go down here and then it'll tell you just to upload the file. So we'll click party upload, and then we're going to choose the file. You can see the round we're doing it for is round 1. And we're going to do parties 1. And we're going to submit the parties. Uh-oh, let's see. Oh, it's because the list I imported had more parties than that I set for the round. So you can see here, which is a nice warning, if you guys did not set up enough rounds, it'll let you know. So you can see error on row 100 of that file. Round 1 does not contain party 5. I think I set it as 4. So if we wanted to actually fix this, we could go back and upload it, but I believe it should have uploaded or no, it didn't upload at all. Okay, let me just go back and fix it. I should have done that correctly the first time. So if we go to chapter, edit rounds, we'll switch this to 12 because it's how it's supposed to be. We'll click save, and it's going to load again. Okay, here we go. And then we're going to go back to P&Ms, upload parties, choose file, and this time it should let me do it. I tried to cut a corner earlier and it did not pay off. Here we go. So now we can see that it successfully uploaded the parties. I have the right amount set. Once we go back to our PNM list now, I'm going to close this. Oh, it's already closed. You can see their parties are listed here. So for example, Claire is in party 12. We have Ashley in 1, 11, and it's going to go down and organize it that way. You can also move these columns. So if you don't want to see the party first, we could pick this up, drag it, drop it, and kind of customize this PNM list however we want. Other options to customize will be under this hamburger menu. So whenever you make updates, you always want to refresh this because if you make an update to a P&M like voting, you don't see it right away, you probably just need to click this refresh button. You can also edit the columns you're viewing. So here we can see we have picture, party, name, and their overall score. If we wanted to see their ID number, we could check that. We have the round 1, 2, 3, and 4 scores showing. We click done, and now it's going to edit what we're going to be able to see on these columns here. So that will be able to be a fully customizable view for you guys. The other thing I'll show you under this PNM list is the slideshow. So if before recruitment you want to maybe get to know your PNMs again. Sometimes you want to maybe identify like those impact PNMs or PNMs that may stick out. You can go to the slideshow, and this is a good way for you and your members to be able to get to know some of the PNMs. I remember when I was in my sorority doing recruitment, we had like a little time during Polish Week where we had this slideshow pulled up and we would go through it just so we could familiarize ourselves with the women coming through the house. So that way, when you see them come through the door, it's not just a random face. You can be like, oh, that's Ashley. I remember that woman from the slideshow. So you can go through here, use the left and right arrows to scroll through the PNMs. And then when you're done with it, you'll just click the escape key. So if we go through here, you can see how it's going to show. This is Claire. She's a little bear, and we have our ID number here. Now, if we had more information, we could see her hometown, we could see some of her interests, her high school GPA, all of that, and we can go through and see all these PNMs. We can also see in like if they're starred right here. So if these are maybe some of your impact PNMs, that star would be filled in. So once we go through this, we can click escape, and then we'll be back at this PNM list. Now going back to our setup, now that we've done step 4 and step 5, step 6 is going to be to vote. So I'm going to switch to a different account real quick so I can show you what voting is going to look like just as like a regular member. Okay, now we're going to click play. So here we can see ballot. We're round 1, party 1. That's the round we have open. And the party we have it set to. And you'll see this is now a shorter list of PNMs. So instead of having all 99 PNMs show up that we're going to have to scroll through and find, we just have this limited list of the women who actually showed up for the party that round. So if I wanted to place a vote on Ashley, it'll have her picture pop up. We can also click this button here, and it's going to give us more information. So this would be something that may be helpful. It's not common, but I remember it happening when I did recruitment. There's always inevitably like one PNM where the someone forgets to vote, or maybe like after recruitment they're like run to the restroom really quick and they forgot to place their vote, and then you're looking at the list and you're like, who spoke to this PNM? It's nice to be able to pull this up and then you can see their information, and then someone can be like, oh wait, I spoke to Ashley, even if they didn't remember the name off the top of their head. So I'll have this and I'll have some of that information that maybe will jog their memory about the conversation they had. When you want to vote, everyone's numbers may look a little, I shouldn't say everyone, but some people's numbers may look a little different based on your national organization. So you as a chapter will all have the same voting values, but they may not be this 1 through 5 that you're seeing on my screen here. This is just how we have it set up for our test account, is just an easy 1 through 5 vote. So after speaking to Ashley, I really liked her. I think she would be perfect at OmegaFi. I think she'd be a great member. So I can give her a 5 if I want to add a comment. Um, Maybe I could just say she like loves to read, and then we can match her up with one of our other members who loves to read. Maybe it'd be something we can match them on. I'll put that comment in there. Again, you guys may use this field differently, so sometimes it may not just be nice comments. Maybe it's like a concern, or maybe use the field for something else. This is just for the example I'm doing, but if your organization does something different, I'm sure you'll learn about it during recruitment. So make sure that you're voting and using these fields appropriately for your organization. The other thing we have here is recommended member match. So I'm going to pick Amanda. Amanda works here at OmegaFi, and she actually writes books. So loves to read, writes books. I'm like, you know what? Amanda would be the perfect match for Ashley, and I'm going to submit my vote. And we'll just let that load for a second while I switch back to the other page to show you guys what it's going to look like now for you as admin once those votes go in. Okay, so we are back on this page, the PNM list. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to click refresh. And now we can see Ashley here has 1 vote. So her overall score is a 5 because she's only been through 1 round of recruitment. We can see her round 1 score here is a 5. If we had multiple women voting on her, and however that score is calculated for round 1, if you guys do an average, it'll average it and you'll be able to see the score here. We can also click her name. And now we're going to be able to see the details for this PNM. So we can see Ashley, the vote details. We can see that I put a vote on her. As you guys have more members talking, they'll list up here. Hopefully you have lots of women being able to talk to the PNMs. I always know it's best when a lot of people get to put in and put their votes on the women, so that way it's the most fair way to go through recruitment. So we have, the vote here, the total here, if we needed to edit it. So like, let's say I submitted this vote and I meant to put it as a 3, where I was like, you know what, I liked her, but 5 is like the most standout. We don't want to just give 5s to everybody. I could go back to maybe my VP of recruitment or whoever is going to be whatever admin's going to be in charge of this. And I could say, hey, I accidentally submitted a 5 for Ashley. Do you mind switching that to a 3? Like, I made a mistake. You will be able to go in as an admin and click this edit button and you can adjust her vote. And then if we adjust it to a 3, we can click save. We could also delete. So if I spoke to Ashley, but maybe it was ASHLEY and I was, you have like the recruitment tiredness and maybe you clicked the wrong one. I submitted my vote. I could go to my admin and say, hey, I accidentally voted on the wrong Ashley. Do you mind deleting that vote so I can vote on the right one? You could go in, click this delete button to get rid of the vote, and that way I could submit a vote on the correct woman. The other thing we'll be able to do under the PNM's name is go to comments. So we can see the comment I submitted, loves to read. Again, if I accidentally put this on the wrong woman, we could click delete. That way everything's cleaned up and we're not putting comments that don't actually match the PNMs. We can also go over here to see their status and party. So right now we're still in round 1. She's active. If she doesn't get asked back to round 2, these statuses can be changed to inactive, or when you upload your party list for the later rounds, it can change it to inactive if they're not on a party list. Next thing over is PNM details. So this is going to be the stuff that uploads when we uploaded that file. You can edit it here. So that's what I was saying. If maybe you labeled a column wrong, you could go in here and edit it, but that would be a pain to do for everybody. So make sure you're formatting your Excel file correctly. And then the last thing we have is recruitment stats. This is not going to be super meaningful right now because she only has 1 vote in for me. But throughout recruitment, as more comes in, this will obviously give you different votes distribution. You can also edit it by round. So the more votes on there, the more interesting this graph will get. And you can also download this. So that is what it's going to look like just for those individual P&Ms, how you're going to submit a vote. Now, let's say round one's done. What we're going to do is we're going to go down to chapter and we're going to change the status to closed. So again, if let's say maybe tomorrow is also going to be round one, we still want to close this. That way we know um, we're being as safe and honest and having this as controlled of a process as possible, closing it. That way nobody can submit votes after the parties are over. So we're going to close it. And then the next day when we come back, we can open it and save that. The other thing you'll see here is after party one, you'll want to advance the parties. So if this was, for example, still day one, we just had our first party, I voted on Ashley, and it's done. Now we're going on to party two. You're going to be in OmegaRecruit if it's you, if it's your membership team, maybe it's an advisor, whoever's going to be on there for you guys on OmegaRecruit, you're going to go here, click party two, save it, and then that way, as the next party begins and women begin coming in the house, once that's over, you're going to be able to have, again, that like filtered ballot where you're only going to see the women that were in that party. Once we're done with round one, we can go to round two, and it's going to be the same process, and we'll be able to click change status, and that's going to fill in. Going back to the P&M list too, it'll remind you here. So if you forget those steps, you can always go back here. Bring you back to step 4, advanced round and party. You're going to want to upload the party. So if it's the next day, next round, we're going to have our party 2 list, and we'll go back to P&Ms. We can either click the step 5, or we can go here and click upload parties, and we'll be able to upload the parties for the second round, third round, pref, all the way through the end of recruitment. So I'll give you guys a second to put questions in the chat. That's the basics of recruitment. So that's just knowing the absolute minimum you need to know just to get votes in and get your lists in. But after this, if you have no questions, I'm going to show you some of the extras we have in OmegaRecruit that will be helpful during recruitment. Again, not required, but definitely good to know about. So I don't see too many questions coming in. I think Heather's been able to answer them. So I'll go ahead and start showing you some of those other things that, again, will be good to know. So under this P&M list, I showed you here, when we click close, how we could click Ashley's name and it brought us to all of here. You can also see comments and things like that by going to P&Ms. If we click comments, we'll be able to see a comment report. So it won't just be for Ashley. In this case, she's the only one we voted on. But if you've voted on 100 P&Ms and there's 100 different comments, you'll be able to see all of those here and you can download those. The other thing you have under here is these reports. So we can see a P&M report. So if you want to download only the active P&Ms for that round or that you currently have, if you want to include comments, you can check these boxes and edit them. Votes, again, that's just going to be a report of all the votes that have been submitted, and you can filter it again by only active P&Ms. You can include the vote values. You can filter it by round. And then the sort option, if it's by user, then you're going to see, it would say like Hannah Gunderson and show all of my votes that I voted on. So if I voted on Kelsey and Ashley and Heather, they would all show up under me, or we can do it by P&M. So if we did it by P&M, then that P&M Ashley that we voted on, it would have her name, and then any of our members that voted on her, it'll organize it that way in the report, and you can do that through Excel or PDF. Again, the comments, it's going to be the same thing like the votes except comments. We can sort it by user, by P&M, by time. So this would be, you could see by party. Slideshow, this is going to be very similar to the slideshow I showed you under the P&M, that like hamburger menu, but this one's going to download. So you could click only active P&Ms. You can include the pictures. If you want to download it, this again could be a good tool. I know my chapter, I think probably did it this way, the way they showed us. Our membership team was able to identify, again, like those women who really seemed like they embodied our chapter's values, and they were, maybe some of our standout P&Ms. So they were able to filter through the PowerPoint. They got rid of the extra slides, and that way we could really get to know those standout P&Ms going into recruitment. And then over here we have vote distribution. So again, it'll be by either all rounds, round 1, 2, 3, PDF, Excel. It's just going to be data that can be helpful to look at. And then this, I think, is a really important report, which is the vote audit report. So if we do for all rounds, we can do this, see, to a PDF. And if we click this, we can see any edits made to votes. So if you remember earlier, I did change that one vote from a 5 to a 3. And you can see here on this audit report that the vote was changed by Hannah Gunderson, old vote value, new vote value. That is a tongue twister. Is right there. You can see the name, their ID number, all of that information. It timestamps it, so that way you have a record if things are changing. You have a record of who did it and when they did it. This is super helpful. Again, maybe you edited the wrong vote. That way you can see what it was before. You don't have to try to remember what it was. Or I really don't like this scenario, but like worst case scenario, maybe something got changed that it shouldn't have been. If you need to go back through the audit report, you can see who changed it. If it was, like an appropriate person changing it at an appropriate time. I don't think that happens often, but just in case, you do have this audit report to be able to go back and then maybe like iron out what happened there. So those are all the reports under the P&M list. And then the other thing here, we have recs. If your chapter does do recommendations, the form will be here that they can download. You can export it and you can also search them. So I think on this one, if I click it, let's take a look. You can see this is the recommendation form for our little fake Omegafy chapter. Yours may look a little different, but this will be there if your chapter uses recommendations before recruitment. So that is all of that under the P&M list, some of those extras. Under the user list, I showed you user list and add users, but under here we have user reports. It's just going to generate a report with the following data. You guys can read this. So it's just name, email, phone number, hometown, interests, access level. So we can download that to Excel just so you have it for your records. And then here under the hub, you have a lot of really good reports. Now, these, again, are not going to be too interesting because I've only submitted one vote. But as you get more votes in, you can see all these different pieces of data you can look at. So you can look at, P&M statuses versus round. You can look at votes per round. You can look at your P&Ms and their high school GPAs, how that distribution's looking. If you guys use legacies, you will have that information there. You can kind of read these. And then the other thing you can do is you can flip this over. I feel like this is a good example since we uploaded a lot of fake GPAs for our fake P&Ms. When we flip over this card, we either have this chart here or we can flip it. I guess that's a graph, not a chart. Bar graph. You can flip it and then you have this table and it's not going to have their names, but you can kind of just see it count. So for 3.0s, we have 2 people, 3.1s, 1. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can go through it and kind of see what those numbers are there. And then you can just keep scrolling and you'll see all these different ones. So those are really good reports. Every chapter, I think, maybe has a favorite. So whatever is going to be the most helpful for you guys, you'll be able to find that here under the hub. Now for the matching, before I do that, I'm actually going to go back to the P&M list just so I can give a little bit of a better example. Let me select my columns. I'm going to have to read this for a second. Start. So we want to bring this starred box back so I can do this example. So if you remember earlier, we could star those users that we thought were really strong recruiters that we want to speak to, maybe some of what we think will be some of our favorite P&Ms. We can star the P&Ms by double clicking this and accidentally just quadruple click this and unstarred Claire. We can go through and do this. So now when we go down to this matching feature, it's going to prioritize matching the starred users with the starred P&Ms. There's a lot of different ways we can match P&Ms and your members. This is not like a required thing you have to do, but it is a useful tool. So if you, get your party list and you want to try to match up the woman coming into your house or wherever you do recruitment with, some of your members that maybe have a lot of shared interests with them, you can use this tool. So here you can see the different areas that you can filter this matching tool. So maybe we don't really have recommendations in here, so I'm not going to check that one. But if we did want it, we could do this. We can set the importance. So maybe it's really important for me. I could do it like this, or if it's not important, we could put it at a 1. But if it's really important, we could also make it required, which means for them to match, they have to have that recommendation. Down here, we can see starred members and PNMs. So if we make that required, it's only going to match the starred PNMs with their starred users. It'll be a field they have to do. If not, we can uncheck that. And we can just say it's really important, but if somebody else matches up with them, that's okay as well. And then you can see we can also do it by interests and hometown. So for this to work, based on what your PNM's interests are in their hometown, you're going to want your users, when they log into their OmegaRecruit account, to make sure they fill out their information with their hometown. I would recommend, if you live like in a small town, maybe like I kind of live in a city that's like outside of a main city. I'd probably put it in the main city just so it matches up with the people in Columbus and not in like the little city I live in right next to Columbus. They can fill in their information like that. Same with the interests. So if I cheered in high school, so I'd say cheerleading or competition cheerleading. I could put in reading, swimming, whatever I like to do, I'd put in for my interests. That way when the PNMs have their interests come through, it's going to start matching us up based on that. And then down here, you'll be able to choose the max number of matches per member. So that will say like your member is only going to match with 2 people. That way you don't have maybe me, like Hannah, matches with like 30 people, and then Heather only matches with 1. We can limit it where I would only match with 2, and then Heather could match with up to 2. You can do the same thing with the PNM. So you can choose how many people they're able to match with. So those will be fields you'll be able to edit. And then down here, you'll be able to select the round. We're on round 2. We advanced it, so it's going to default to round 2. For round 1, it would default to round 1. And then you can also choose all parties, or if you want to do it by individual parties, if we're only trying to do the round 1 party one, we could click that, and then we'll click generate matches. I'm not going to click that right now because I didn't upload a party list for round 2, but when you click generate matches, it's just going to give you a report, and it's going to match up the PNMs with your users. You can also click this over here. It'll show you view results. And again, just imagine the names listed in down here. So you can see the member, the members group, the PNM's ID number, their first name, last name, party, and the criteria that they matched on. So that way it's not just like Hannah and Heather matched and you're like, I have no idea what I matched with her on. It'll have the criteria that we matched on. So if me and Heather both did cheerleading in high school, it would have that listed there. So that way at least when they first walk in the door, something you can bring up to get the conversation started. You can also manually add a match. So if you want to add a new match to this report, before downloading it, you could click add new match and then add that to the list. Going down again, vote. I'm not going to be able to click this because the test account I'm in, I don't think it'll let me because I am in, it says developer, which is why I switched to the other account. But when you click this vote button, since you aren't like an OmegaFi employee, it's going to take you to this page. I'll just slide it over. It's going to take you to this and you'll be able to see your ballot. The next thing down is this chapter button. So when you click this, we've been to this page a bunch before. It routes us here a lot, but we have the advanced round and party, edit rounds, edit chapters. This is where you can put in your chapter name, your recruitment dates. This stuff should already be filled in. And then here's where you can edit those custom columns. So if you remember before, I said if you don't see a column header that matches like information you want to put in, just make sure you use custom 1, custom 2, custom 3 so it imports correctly. Once you import that, you'll be able to edit those columns here. So whatever field you needed it to fill in or column header you wanted, you'll be able to put that in and click save and it'll update. If your school is an ICS school, so how I mentioned before, you can just have the PNMs and parties import, you're going to want to link it here. So you'll click ICS info. It'll say to connect your ICS account to OmegaRecruit, please log into ICS, choose OmegaRecruit as your third-party provider. So you'll be able to go through that and click that. I do recommend if you're going to be practicing with these practice files or practicing with practice files you make, if you are an ICS school, I would disconnect it for the sake of practice, just because you don't want to do anything that's going to mess up recruitment on the school's end. And for your chapter with the school, you don't want anything to import or go back and forth that doesn't need to, just to avoid things getting messy. I would go to this ICS tab and make sure in ICS you unlink that just for the sake of practice. And then when you're ready for actual recruitment, relink it so that way you can import your PNMs and parties. And then the last thing I'm going to show you into this chapter tab is something to be very careful of, which is this master reset button. So if you do practice with your PNMs, or not with your PNMs, excuse me, with your members, and you use those practice PNM files. Once you're done with the mock recruitment with your chapter, you are going to want to master reset the account, which is going to wipe all of the data from it. So the only time you want to do that is after you practice. Once real recruitment starts, like, just pretend this tab doesn't exist. You do not want to delete anything, any votes or anything like that through this master reset button. If you feel like for whatever reason you may need to click master reset for recruitment, I really can't think of a scenario. I would probably reach out to us first before wiping all of the data, because if you reset this during recruitment, we may not be able to get that information back. So if you're on like round 3 and everyone's voted and someone accidentally clicks master reset, it's going to wipe all that, and it's not likely, or I don't know if I should say it's not likely. It's just not very easy, and there is a solid chance we won't be able to recover any of your information. So do not click this once recruitment starts. Only do it after your practice recruitment, and then much later after recruitment's over, after you've downloaded all of your reports and information you want for historical data, then you can think about pushing this button. But I would avoid at all costs. You can see when you do click master reset, all the PNMs are removed, all votes and comments are deleted, and it's set back to before recruitment. So you're gonna have to reset those dates, you're gonna have to re-upload PNMs, all of that. Your user list will not be reset. So this is good, again, if you're doing mock recruitment. Once mock recruitment's over, you can reset it and all of your users will still be in there. But everything else is gone. So this is like a 1-time or 2-time deal. However many times you practice, you can push this button, but after that, please avoid it. The next thing under the chapter tab is this configuration page. This is going to be different based on whatever your national or international organization is. So they'll have information on how you guys do your rounds, how you vote, how the scores are calculated. I know you guys are probably familiar with doing recruitment. A lot of the times, maybe your leadership consultant or whoever comes and visits your chapter will teach you like how voting works for your organization, what the different categories are, what the scales mean, all of that. But you'll also be able to go to configuration and just see how those numbers add together to get those total amounts on your PNM list when you look at their overall score and round scores. And then the last thing I'll show you is this training page. This is pretty much everything we went over in this webinar today, but written out. There's also a video to an older webinar that we did. It's pretty much exactly the same as what we went over today. So we'll email you a recording of this webinar, but if you ever lose that, you can always go back to this training page, click this button and find it. You can also scroll through here, and my teammate Sarah Beth worked very hard on putting this together, updating it with most relevant recent information. So you can go through here and get all of the steps, everything we went over in this webinar, and figure out how to do it there. The last thing we have is this Get Help button. So if we click here, you'll be brought to the OmegaRecruit Help Center. This is another place you can look at old webinars or this one. So if you lose the recording, you can always go to video and webinars and you can see all of our webinars listed here. Here's other videos that are shorter. So if you don't want to watch, like an hour-long webinar, you can go here and just see how to add a new administrator or whatever it is. You also see here, there's other tabs. So these line up with the tabs you see in OmegaRecruit. And you can click in here and there's just a bunch of articles we wrote. We're constantly adding to it, updating it. So definitely check here first if you ever have a question come up. And the last button you'll see is the support button. I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint, and at the end of it, we do have our recruitment support email that you guys will definitely want to jot down. During recruitment, you'll have 24/7 report or support. So if anything happens, even if it's midnight and you're trying to vote on your PNMs and get your list together and all of that, you will be able to email us if you need help with anything. So I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint. I have a few more reminders that I just want to show you one more time. Nothing new, just things I want to double down on so you guys remember, and then we'll go to the Q&A and then I'll give you that information, that email information. So again, I've said it before, I'll probably say it 1,000 times more, preparation equals success. At least 1 week prior to recruitment. If you could do it a little sooner, I recommend doing it sooner, but I know sometimes you want to wait till your chapter's there for Polish Week. You want to make sure everybody logs in and their username and password works correctly. If not, we have an email in the next, that's 2 slides from now. It's not the question slide, but that contact slide will have the login support email that you guys can give your members. Practice and train. So again, you just want to make sure you're practicing one as an administrator or officer for your chapter, and two, you want to make sure your members are practicing. I think mock recruitment's like one of the best things you can do during Polish Week. Sometimes it's fun. Maybe you guys have plans to like bring your parents or your boyfriend or whoever it may be to come be a fake PNM. It's always good to practice and vote on them and then train. So again, you want to train your members on how to do this. That way, once recruitment comes, we know it's a whirlwind. At least everybody's comfortable, confident, and feels like they've done this 100 times. So it's no big deal. The software is going to be like the last thing on their mind. They're just going to put in their votes and then call it a day. So with that, does anybody have any questions? I would love to hear them.
Hey, Hannah, we got one that's a good one, and I attempted to answer it in the chat. I mean, we got several questions, but one I'd like for you to just go over again for me.
Mhm.
It's explaining under edit rounds, what does the flagging mean on the right
Okay.
side?
Yes, let me go back to that real quick. I'm just pulling it up so people can see. So I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, what you're seeing. Um, what we showed is this, so there's not necessarily like a flagging button, but you may have a box over here that says flagging round. That would be like specific to your national organization. So they'll explain, I won't do it in this webinar, but if you have questions, you can check your configuration page over here, or you can email us and we can tell you what that is. But it's just, if you know what the flagging round is for your chapter, you'll be able to set that there. So a lot of chapters will have that. It'll be like round two, and then it may be a flagging round after round two, which is just maybe where you don't necessarily like put in votes, but it's just like a different process for you guys. You'll be able to check that there, so that way you can use the software and it's not going to add to their overall like a regular round vote. It's going to be like a flagging round. I know that's kind of a vague answer, but hopefully if you still have questions, you can definitely email us. But I recommend looking at this configuration page. There'll also be a video at the top of it that goes through everything that's specific to your national or international organization, and it'll explain it in there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then we just got a question in, a couple of questions about tagging members. Can you add
Mhm.
tags to the member's profile for matching purposes that they won't be able to see? For example, if someone was a star recruiter, is that marked on their profile, or can you only see that as an admin? And then also, can you add tags to the PNM profiles that the members can't see for matching purposes?
That is a good question. I believe anything that you add to the PNM will show up on their ballot when you click that little icon where it can like flip the ballot over for the PNM. I want to say it will show them any of like those fields you have that they could match on. But I may have to double check on that. That would actually, Heather, do you know off the top of your head? That's a good question, but I'm not positive if there's a way to have tags that they can't see.
Um, I didn't think that they could, but then you saying that is making me question myself. So we
We're
will research that.
Yeah, that's a
And
good question. I
yeah.
think if Sarah Beth was here, she's one of our teammates. She's like, she knows. It's like she could have coded a mega recruit. She knows everything, so she probably knows. So we'll ask her, and then we'll follow up with you. Um, it will though. A lot of times those tags will be like under interest, so I think it'll show. I will say though, for like starring your users, I don't believe it'll show your members that they're a starred user. When you go to their match profile, it just shows their interest, but it doesn't show that they've been starred. So I do know that because I'm testing it right now and it's not showing for me. But we'll double check on those tags or tags. I know I say tags a little weird. Um, any other questions?
Can you customize the list of interests?
Yes. So a lot of times, like I think the PNMs will put that in when they're signing up for recruitment. But if you wanted to edit them, um, let me go back to Mega Recruit real quick. Okay. If you want to edit like their interests, if you go to the PNM list, um, you can like click into their name, and then you can go to their details, and you'll be able to edit like different information about them that you've uploaded. Um, it'll also show up here on the list. You can see it. I don't have it as a selected column right now, but I can. It'll be in here. So you'll be able to, like, if you wanted to change their hometown, like, let's say again, they maybe live, you can tell it's like a city, like right out of Columbia, but like they live in Columbia. You could like change it and edit it there, and that way it'll match up. And then your members get to put in their, when they make their profile, your members are going to put in their interests. So if you want to, try to make it kind of standardized before you like upload the PNMs, you could edit those fields, and then you could just give your members like a list of interests and say like, please just put them in this way so they match up. So that'll let you do it that way. Oh, geez.
All right. I
Any
think, yeah, I think that's all of the questions.
Okay, perfect. Well, then I will go back to the PowerPoint. We can just go over just this contact information. You can just screenshot this, or we'll send the email so you'll be able to like refer back to it. But the recruitment_support@omegafy.com, that is going to be an email you definitely want to save, because that's what you're going to reach out to us during recruitment for that 24/7 support. Anything you have come up that you need help with, email that, and we have a whole team that will be dedicated. They're going to be staying up at the wee hours of the morning to make sure you guys aren't, waiting for help with anything. So definitely save that. Before recruitment, if you have questions, you can also email that email address. They can help you, get your account set up or answer any questions you have about OmegaRecruit. And then the login email is loginsupport@omegafy.com. I mentioned this before, but a lot of times the reason people can't log in is just because the email they're using to log in may be like their school email, and the email you have listed for them as a user is like their Gmail. So you can update those, but if their emails match and something weird is going on, they still can't get in, or if maybe you just forget to check the emails, it's no big deal. You can email loginsupport@omegafy.com, and we have a whole team dedicated to updating their email addresses, helping them troubleshoot any issues with their account and getting in. And then the last thing is that Get Help button that I showed you. That takes you to the Help Center, where you have all those articles and videos you can refer back to. So that is everything I have for tonight. I really appreciate you guys joining us, and we finished right on time. It's 9 o'clock on the dot. So if you have any other questions, feel free to email recruitment support. We will, I think Heather took down the name, but we'll follow up with you for that question about the tags to see if members can see them or not. But other than that, I hope everyone has a great night. And again, thank you for joining us.